301 Main in Sturbridge. Conservation Commission is holding this meeting in person with an option for virtual attendance. In-person attendance is at the meeting location listed that I just listed. Go-to meeting access is at https://global.gotomeeting.com/join/846062197. You can also dial in using your phone, 1-872-240-3212. Access code is 846062197. In addition to the documents presented in the Commissioner's packets available on the Commission website, full application plans and narratives are available on the Commission's website, and I won't give you that in Sturbridge. We'll do a quorum check.
Eric Gaspar, present.
Roy Bishop, present.
David Barnacle, present.
And Ed Goodwin present, so we have one short. Becky, what do you want to do for walk-ins? Anything? Nothing?
We can go through a couple other
Right.
things that aren't scheduled public hearings while we're waiting for the
Good.
10 here. Under wetland decisions, we have 530 Leadmine Road. It's a request for certificate of compliance, 300-271.
Right.
In reviewing this, we received the request. We found out that this was for the construction of a single-family house, which included a driveway crossing and a wetland replication with that. The engineer was not sure if that had been completed. He had to go back out there. So at this time, I recommend that we hold off on the issuance of it until we get some more information about that.
That's under administrative decisions? Is that what you're talking
It's number
about?
12, wetland decisions.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
12.
So yeah, we're just gonna hold off on that one, until we get more information.
We need to make a motion on that, or is it?
No.
Okay.
No.
367 New Boston Road. This is a request for certificate of compliance, SCC number 17-45. Let me just get to my notes here. That one, so we received the required information on that one, including the letter of substantial compliance. Site is stabilized. I went out there. They had to do restoration plantings. It was 30 shrubs. I did go out there. They had a combination of trees and shrubs out there all along the side of the property boundary going down. It wasn't specified on where they had to go. So it actually created a nice kind of vegetated buffer along the property line there. So I see no concerns with that and recommend issuance of a complete certificate of compliance with the following perpetual conditions, which are numbers 31, 34, and 35.
Great.
I'd like to make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for SCC number 17-45 at 367 New Boston Road with the perpetual conditions noted by the agent.
Do I have a second? Roy second?
Yep.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in
Eric.
favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Great.
Okay.
What's next, Beck?
Gonna do the minutes.
Sure, great. All right. Minutes for 5/25/22 to be approved. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes,
825, right?
25-22.
Yeah. So I'd like to second that motion.
I'll second the motion. David Barnacle.
All right, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin
David
in favor?
Barnacle in favor.
Great. Done. Becky, you got another?
Do you want to do committee updates?
Sure. All right.
I can tell you there's a Slack meeting tonight. So I am here.
This, I'm going to tell you, That's the way it's been for years. I mean, really, they have the meetings on our nights.
Yeah.
And we've even changed our nights, so what can I tell you? CPA has an upcoming meeting in October. We haven't met for a long time. So that's the only update that I have on that.
Just on trails, I guess I can give an update. There was a meeting last week with a couple members of the Trails Committee and members from Opakam Land Trust. So the proposals that they presented to you guys over those meetings, they did present those to Opakam. Opakam is evaluating that. They sent a letter. They're going to go out and the new director there hasn't been on some of the properties, so they're going to go out and walk the properties, take a look at those, and send a response about that. And in their letter, they just said, you know, that they have, I mean, it's written in the CRs, they have 45 days to evaluate these requests. But it's my understanding they'll probably try to go out there soon and do a site visit. And they've asked if they're building any new trails at this time to just wait on that. So that is that.
We also have news from the Trails Committee. Next Saturday, there's going to be a ribbon cutting ceremony take place at the Riverlands, which is right across the street from the parking lot of Old Sturbridge Village. It's going to start at 10 o'clock in the morning and probably won't end until sometime after noontime. You should go online to the Trails Committee website or the Frost website and look up the activities, because there are a number of different hikes that are taking place for all different levels of abilities. There also are a number of different bike events for kids from very early age to Ed's age.
So you don't get anything to do, huh?
No.
No? All right. Well, I'll be there. Should be good.
Becky, before he goes, could you check the tricycle, make sure the wheels are okay?
All right.
What's the question?
Then check your tricycle, make sure the wheels are okay. Right? You said tricycle?
Yeah,
Oh, you
yeah.
said bicycle?
That
Oh.
was pretty.
I think he said tricycle.
I wasn't
Yeah.
here exactly. So.
The chain drive on my tricycle comes off every now and then. Oh, God. Anything else? Correspondence, 34-seater, you want to do that?
Yeah, did I give that to you in the email? I can pull it up here.
Yeah.
We received a letter. It was addressed to the Conservation Commission. It was addressed to the Board of Selectmen, the Planning Board. It was a concerned resident had about the development occurring on 34 Cedar Street. I can scroll when you're ready.
Yep.
You know, this person said that they were once a property owner there, and there were concerns and reasons because of the wetlands that it was not buildable before, and was curious why it was able to be built on now. So I did, I shared this with Ed previously. Yeah. I sent it to the other committees, and I just let the staff for those boards know that, you know, we went back and looked at the records. I couldn't find anything, any applications.
Well, she was correct.
There was things that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was denied.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just said I couldn't find any paper records here for those, but that I did remember there were some things in the past. And I said it could have been for what they were proposing. I said that this one was worked to
Yeah,
revise.
I don't remember the detail,
to meet
but it
standards.
wasn't, they wanted to build, and it wasn't like the tactical build that we've been given this time.
Yeah.
And we rejected it. So,
Yeah. And that's what I said, right? Not knowing it
yeah.
could have been what they proposed there,
Yep.
et cetera. So I just wanted to share that with you because it was addressed to the board. You know,
All right.
that's all.
Okay, we can go to 6:10, public hearings.
All right.
Roy? Oh,
Opening
down the
statement.
end.
Yeah. Somehow, Stephen, I've taken over this role. We need you back. In the interest of saving time, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within a wetland, water body, or resource area and/or within the 200-foot buffer zone to a wetland, water body, or resource area in accordance with the Mass Wetland Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and associated regulations, and the Town of Sturbridge Wetland Bylaws and associated regulations. We will not be reading the newspaper ad. Prior to opening the first hearing for each project, the applicant is to submit proof of notification to abutters within 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of legal newspaper advertisement. If these items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to the start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. If any of the visitors have not legibly signed in yet, please do. Also, if any visitors are recording this meeting, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. At 610, 43 Colette Road, an RDA Landscape Improvements. The owner, Brad Green, represented by Boston Outdoor Living, to request to issue a DET.
Determination. Just before, for the record, we have proof of abutter notifications in the legal ad receipt. So I have the plan, and then I also just put together like a quick, I can get there, just to, hey mom, just to show, this is just approximate, but wetland edge is kind of in this area. It's a little different when you put those GIS layers on. So it looked like a little bit more maybe of the work was within the 100-foot buffer. So I just wanted to show that, and I'll go back to the, this. So if you want to just introduce yourself and.
So my name is AJ Comerford with Boston Outdoor Living out of Charlton. So this project here is a client on Colette Road, has an existing pool and pool patio and some timber retaining walls. He also has a existing deck and an existing pool house in that area, and a pool fence. And what we're proposing to do is, in the purple there, is basically part of the purple where it says wall is replacing the wooden walls that are just at the end of their life with some masonry walls, essentially replacing them in the same location, slight tweaks to the curves, but essentially being the exact same location. And then the walkway on the far left there will just be, right now there is not really it's a slope, so there's not really like a good way. It's not a big slope, but it's enough where like older people would have a little bit of trouble getting down from the driveway, which is up there. So it's a walk, like step area to get down to that pool patio, and then like a grill island just beside his deck over there. So most of it's existing, and it's it's replacing some older stuff, and then a few minor additions.
What are the additions?
The additions would be that that kitchen island right beside that deck, basically like a grill area.
Oh, that's a kitchen island?
Yeah, there's
That little black
Oh,
one right there.
yeah.
If you
Sorry.
Squeeze the button, it'll have. Yeah.
So this area right here,
Okay, right
yeah,
there, yeah.
it's like 9 feet long this way. This deck's already here. This is like the fence line right now. This right here is there's already a fire pit here. This is just some cobblestone right here, and this is like a little pea stone. Not adding like pavers or concrete. This is just pea stone around the fire pit to make it more sittable, I guess, if that's a word. And so that's the bulk of the work. And then also on this side over here, he has some asphalt mill. He has like an asphalt milling parking area that was installed at some time previously. But I guess there was a miscommunication at some point in the past where we weren't involved. But there needs to be, there's some open items, I guess. And we're going to install some riprap drainage swale just to kind of collect this runoff over in this area.
So right, it's Eric and I went out there on a site visit. It's all existing developed area. So he's got the pool area where the fire pit is all currently lawn where the walkway will go through.
Yep.
So all of that's within existing areas. Some of it at the extent of the 100-foot buffer zone. So fairly a minor project. I wouldn't anticipate any concerns with that. Where the kitchen island's going, we looked at that. It's already it's already a maintained area over there, so they won't be going into any undisturbed areas to put that in. And then for the swale, the driveway, something that had been installed in the past. And I had gone out there before to talk to him, and there's some kind of runoff issues going down there. So we're looking for some BMPs to kind of manage that. So when this came in, we talked about that again. He agreed to add like a riprap swale at the end within the developed area to help kind of manage some of that driveway runoff. One of the other things he did already was up by the road, he did put a berm, so that's eliminating all the road runoff coming down the driveway, but it is slightly sloped, so there is still, you can see some channelization, some of it he said was from before. So just looking for some BMPs to kind of help mitigate that. It's not, there's a good distance to the wetland still there, and it's a vegetated area, but it is a slope. So it was something that I had requested be added to the project, so.
What's a good distance?
From the wetland, well, if you go back,
Yep.
here is about the 100-foot buffer. So about here, what, 80 feet or so? This is where it would go in.
That's a good guess. I'd say.
This is the current fence right there, and that's where the fire pit is. So, just in this area. So, and this is all like a vegetated tree, shrubs, herbaceous kind of slope that goes down towards the wetland there. So,
Where are the millings?
This whole area, like right here. That's like a little shed. That's the his truck is parked, or actually two trucks.
We try to avoid millings anywhere near wetlands.
Yeah, those were there before we got involved.
I'm
Yeah.
just communicating. I heard you say that, so I
Okay.
figured you, yeah. Okay.
I don't have anything else. I guess recommendation would be to issue a determination.
Yeah.
It'd be a negative number 3. With the following conditions, we just have our standard pre-work and sign-off conditions. Straw wattle install between work and BVW for the swale work. The rest of it's all within that pool area, and it's flat in there. And I imagine that, they're not going to be leaving anything open and exposed, getting in the pool. So I just don't really see a need for erosion controls in that area, unless things are going to be open and exposed for a little while. And then for the stormwater BMP, that would be just put in with the existing developed footprint areas. And then, as say, the parameters of the size of it and things like that is something that we could work out on site because we didn't really have the opportunity to discuss that in further detail. How they put it in, I'd like to see a filter fabric involved with that. But when we were on site, we kind of talked about making it like concave, an area where it can settle and then kind of disperse and sheet flow over that. So there's no channelization. We just don't want to create a bigger issue there. I'd also recommend a positive 2B. We're not giving a resource area approval. It'd be a positive 5 with the conditions that I noted earlier.
Great. Eric, anything?
The only question I have, AJ, is when we were on site, there was some question about where the swale was going to go. That he had discussed with us maybe the possibility of putting it in a vegetated area. We had suggested possibly pulling that out and into a currently disturbed area. Is that your understanding as well?
Yeah, we'll keep it in the developed area and we'll review it with Becky and make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay, that's all I had. I think that what's being done is going to be a net improvement to the overall performance of the site. So,
All right, David, anything?
I'm still curious because it's very difficult to hear everything the way the system is. But I'm still curious about the question that was just asked. Exactly where is the runoff going to be going to?
It'll probably be it'd be some riprap swales that'll probably have a small riprap retention, so it can discharge. But we'll review that with Becky on site to just make sure that we're all on the same page. And obviously, we won't do anything without Becky's approval.
So again, what I'm curious about is at the end of that riprap area, is the water going to be dispersed in a flow like it's coming out of a pipe, or is it going to be spread somehow?
No, it would be not dispersed like in a pipe. It would be, have like a like a small retention basin so it can get caught and then,
Evenly
word?
overflow.
Yeah,
over
I'm
it,
looking for a word.
berm.
Almost like perm back into the, or perk back into the ground.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Have a motion?
No, Roy didn't have anything? Sure.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we issue a determination of we have to close, make a motion to close the public hearing.
I second that.
Getting ahead of myself.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of closing the public hearing?
We're gonna go to the
Eric
public
Um,
first.
How about the public?
Gass. Oh, yeah.
All right.
I got way ahead of myself. It's
Yeah.
this darn
We're out of
tooth.
practice, yeah.
This
Is there anyone in the audience on GoToMeeting that would like to comment on this project? Okay, we have 2 people on here. I don't have anyone requesting to comment, so.
All right.
All right, I will reaffirm my motion to close the public hearing.
Second it.
So moved. I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
David?
David Barnacle in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Can you hear me, David?
Yes.
I moved a little closer. Anybody else if you can't hear, let us know, all right?
I will.
All right.
All right, with regards to the determination of 43 Collette Road, I make a motion that we issue a negative number 3 with the conditions the agent listed in the agenda, a positive 2B for no resource area approval, and a positive number 5 with the conditions also issued above.
Second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
David Barnacle in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. We're now at 6:20.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. JJ.
Thanks a lot. 131 Shore Road, an RDA House Edition. The applicant is Douglas and Susan Purvis, Representative Nathaniel Messier, and again, we have the same issue of determination.
Okay, so we do have a caller on here. Caller, Nate, is that you? Okay, I don't think so. There might have been a miscommunication with him about coming to the public hearing, but we do have everything we need to open it. We have the butter notifications and the legal ad.
All
I
right,
think I can present it. I think it's a pretty straightforward project.
okay.
If that's okay.
Why don't we do that?
Okay.
Anybody have a problem with that?
Nope.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is a house addition project located at 131 Shore Road. It is on Cedar Lake. You can see from the plan here, we've got Cedar Lake here. We've got the existing house with an existing deck structure here. Eric and I did do a site visit out here last week, and I provided some photographs of the area for you to take a look at. What they are proposing to do is actually put a second-story addition on the house. And then they're making repairs to the existing deck. No earthwork is proposed, and no expansion of the existing structure is proposed. So we did ask them to file an RDA. They do have, do you want me to zoom in, Ed, or you? Do you want me to zoom in?
What?
Do you need me to zoom in at all?
No,
Look at anything?
no.
Oh, okay. Right, it already went to ZBA for approval. Like I said, no expansion of the footprint. They do have straw wattle shown on here as a BMP. It is a pretty kind of steep slope in the back. Just repairs to the existing deck. So I'd recommend approval of this through the determination process. It would be a negative number 5, being exempt from the Wetlands Protection Act. I would recommend, as I usually do, the positive 2B, there's no resource area approval, and then a positive 5, because it is subject to the local bylaw. With conditions, we just do our regular standard pre-work and sign-off conditions. Straw wattle install as proposed due to the steep slope, and then only repairs to, and note in there that only repairs to the existing deck are approved, no expansion or change of impervious surfaces or size expansion proposed or approved as part of the project.
Okay, and this is the non-addition that's going up over
Correct.
the existing house?
Yep. Yeah, and this outline here is the existing deck around the house.
Okay.
Do you want me to show you the pictures?
Yeah, put a couple of pictures up, so.
Okay. So you can see this is the front of the house. Going around the side, that's the deck. And then these are a couple pictures of the back. You can see there's a concrete slab underneath the existing deck. And then as you wrap around the side, there's some concrete there where the stairs come down to as well.
But that's all staying the way it is.
Yes, they're going to be replacing railings and deck boards, any boards that may be rotten that need to be replaced.
Yeah.
Yep, they don't anticipate needing to do any footings or anything of that nature.
Okay, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I was on site, as Becky said, it's a pretty straightforward project. We're not increasing or encroaching on the lake. Yeah, I mean, it's what we're supposed to see when these types of projects come before us. So I was happy with it.
Okay, Roy, any comments?
Any issues with the runoff from the roof story? A little tight? There are some drainage issues that we need to,
I didn't notice any erosion issues out there. I mean, it is a good point because when these projects come in, we do look for roof runoff infiltration. I don't remember seeing any runoff issues on the property. I don't know if you remember seeing that, Eric.
Nothing that I can recall.
Yeah. Right, they've got over here, you can kind of see that. That's probably the gutters coming down off the side there.
That looks like a gutter right there.
Yeah.
so that, gonna raise it up a story and gonna keep the gutters on there?
Yeah, these are all gutters here too.
I didn't think to ask about the gutters, but you can make a note on there to continue to have them or recommend
Okay,
something.
all right, any comments, David?
Yeah, I have the same comments that you people have. I'm curious about putting a second story on and not having any other receptacles for the water that's coming off from the roof. Because it's going to have that much more power since it's moving down another 25 feet or so. And also, there's concrete under the deck. Is the deck such that the boards are joined together so that there's no gaps?
I don't remember that. I don't remember seeing that.
Well, was it?
Well, you have the man
isn't
here
there
who's going
a
to do the
roof
fixing.
structure-ish, that
Here?
white area? I think it's already,
It looked kind of wet under there though. I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
if it-
I mean, it's open.
Oh, I thought maybe I could zoom in there.
See how on the bottom it's like cool water?
Yeah.
All I'm thinking about is where the flow is going to go from the water that's coming off the combo of the patio and the roof.
All right, here's a gutter right here.
Yeah. And that goes to a shooter pad right there.
Yeah.
Goes,
Just like,
that's like that.
So recommend like splash pads at the bottom of the gutters, something to help, slow down control.
I think we need
Yes.
a plan. They've got to put it on their plan. What they're doing with the gutters,
I just think it's rife for having
I would
some
say,
problems take
yeah.
place.
This, it's like Roy said, or somebody said, it's one story now, plus a walkout. And it's
Would
gonna go
you-
to 2 stories plus a walkout. This is a drain here, right?
Yep.
That's a drain there. And a pad that shoots it.
Could we,
I think we probably need a plan for, some type of a plan for water.
so would
Dispersion.
you be willing to do like a conditional approval, since it's only under the local bylaw, that they develop and submit a plan to you to mitigate and give them a couple options, that something you might be looking for? I know that these people, they were not aware that they had to file with us.
How far from the water are they?
That's, go back
It's
to
a
the
pretty
plan.
steep slope, so.
What do you think, Eric? You saw it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not far from the water.
Yeah.
So
it's
the green
downhill,
is the
right?
50-foot here, so it's about 50 feet there.
And those gutter pieces that they had there look jerry rigged.
Yeah.
So, but on the other hand, go back to the photos of the house. No, the other ones.
The individual ones.
Yeah. No, the actual house,
Well, that's, well, I can,
the red colonial picture. See, this appears to be appropriately gutted. So where it goes. Where's the lake from here, Eric?
Well, that's the front of the house, so it's on the other side.
It's this, okay.
yeah, well, let me show you the plan. It's about, the front of the house is
Okay.
75 feet from there.
What's the best way to handle it? How do you guys want to handle it?
I think a mitigation plan, water runoff coming out
Yeah.
Yep.
the second
But-
story, and something more formal, something more.
Would you do a conditional approval that prior to start of work, they give you a plan? I'm saying because I know that they were planning on starting this project because they didn't think they had to file with us because they were only putting the second story addition on. And that, I think they're planning on starting this. So if it's something that could be conditionally approved, I think that instead of waiting to come back to the next meeting,
Okay.
the nature of this project, I think that might be
Anybody
fair.
object to that?
I don't. It's I know that David was saying 25 feet of additional carry in jest, but we're talking the difference of 10 feet. I don't know that within that lawn, if it's not already channeling coming off the house as it is, I don't know that the difference of 10 feet for the same amount of volume is going to make a significant amount of difference. So though I do see the issues with the jerry-rigged flow system that's down there projecting directly towards the lake. So we should have something more formal, but I'm not, aside from that, I don't have any concerns with the project.
All right. So, David, any comments?
And
Can we give them some recommendations for BMPs?
No, I think they have to come to us with a good plan for handling the water. You know, if we give them a recommendation, then they'll say, hey, that's what said it.
Well, I was gonna say recommendations, like a couple options, but
So me personally, I would be okay with them working directly with our agent to form, for me, for something of this nature, that's why we have her.
Yeah.
So
I don't have a problem with it either.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
another way to approach this might be to just segment the project, make it into two parts. And the first part is they're going to build a second story. And the second part is after it's built, then you can see whether there are any problems developing and you can take care of them then.
The hard part about that, though, is that we don't ever get to follow up on stuff like that. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I would just say maybe prior to the start of work, they develop a mitigation plan for roof runoff, and I can talk to them about some options
To
and,
be approved by the Sturbridge
okay.
Conservation Agent.
All right. I'm going to see if there's
I
anybody
still
in the
am-
audience.
I am in favor of the agent taking care of it.
Okay.
All right.
All right, is there anyone in the audience or on the public line who would like to comment on the request for determination of applicability for 131 Shore Road? Okay, I don't have anyone on go-to who's asking to comment.
All right.
Motion to close the public hearing?
I second that.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of closing the public hearing?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Okay, do I have a motion?
Yeah, with regards to the project at 131 Shore Road, did I get that right? I would like to recommend issuing a determination of a negative number 5 under 310 CMR 10.2 parentheses 2B parentheses 1, a positive 2B for no resource area approval, and a positive number 5 with the agent's conditions for standard pre-work, straw wattles inside install as proposed due to the steep slope, only repairs to the existing deck, no expansion or change to the impervious surfaces, and also a provision that the agent will be consulted on a drainage plan for the house with regards to the stormwater.
Prior to start of work.
All right, do I have a second?
Second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. All right, we are now on to 231/233 Cedar Street. NOI construction of a single-family home and associated site work. DP file number, there is no number.
We did get a file number in after we published this. It's 1139.
Okay, 1139.
Oh, that's a hard one.
Bradley Marzalewski is the owner applicant, and the representative is S. Jordan Ecotech.
Okay, so we received a written request for continuation today. They're working on some project revisions, and they'd like to come in for the October 6th meeting.
Okay. Will we approve that?
Yeah. Eric Gaspar in favor of continuation.
Roy Bishop in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right,
Go ahead now.
Lad Road, we're still on schedule? Let me see what the time is.
We got 3 minutes.
Oh, we got 2 minutes, huh?
Yep.
I'm down here.
Got anything we can do for 2 minutes?
Sure. We can find something. You give them this?
Oh, yeah, everyone has this. We can look at that real
Oh, yeah. I looked at it.
Next year's meetings?
My question for you is, here we eliminated, if you see in July, we have one meeting, in August, we have the 2. This year, we eliminated that first one in August. Do you want to just plan that this year, or keep it as is and wait and see?
So this is the every
I have an answer to
3-week
that.
Well,
schedule.
I mean, it's summer vacation,
What?
and things.
I'll defer to you.
Well, plan it
Just plan it as,
if we need to come back and change
Okay.
it, we can. Plan it.
I think it's.
Right.
So we'll eliminate the August 3rd.
Okay. Boy, that clock's not moving. What else? What else have you got, Beck?
Give you a couple updates on things that are on here. So we did this one. So number 17 on the agenda here, 100 Breakneck Road, which was unpermitted work. I had this in the staff notes for you. This is a site that we had been made aware of some work occurring out here. We had been involved with this property before, for a couple other houses that were being built on it. I went out and they had cleared a portion of the property. I contacted the property owner, went out and did a partial site visit with him. He thought that, he had some wetlands delineated out there. He also has riverfront out there. He thought he was not working within our jurisdiction. Based on a review of the plan and the resource area delineation, I wasn't allowed to walk the whole property at that time. It did appear that he worked within buffer zone. I immediately issued him correspondence with the cease and desist, which, he did agree on site to. And when I was out there, he said he had an engineer working on developing the plan for the development, and that was to be ready in 2 weeks. I did ask that when that was available to send it to us, and since they cleared it, to have the new tree line picked up on that so we could get a better understanding of what occurred in jurisdiction. It's my understanding that the engineer who was originally working on this is not working on it anymore. I had been following up with him and had not been updated on the status of the plan in a little while, so we did talk about this last meeting. I did send him a letter requesting that they attend the meeting. I was contacted today, an engineer, John Presnell, I believe, did come into the office today. He was recently obtained to work on this. He does have an existing condition plan that he's going to send over. The property owner is out of town, so we asked that we could postpone this to the next meeting. There's no work occurring out there at this time. So I just recommend we postpone to the next meeting. We also talked to him about, he's going to have a site plan soon showing what they're proposing to do for work out there in the near future, with the anticipation that they need to file. He will be working on filing an application for that too,
All right,
for the following meeting.
I have no problem with that.
Mr. Chairman, do you think it would be advisable to submit a letter to them indicating clearly that no further work should be endeavored until the plan has been approved?
In my letters, I did write that on there. But we can send a follow-up letter after this meeting, just with the information that we were provided and what our understanding is, and to come to the next meeting too, and reminding them of no work. If
Okay,
you like.
Thank you.
all in favor?
Works for me.
All right. We're now on to 640, 5 Lad Road, NOI, driveway expansion after the fact, DEP file number 300. And do you have a number for that?
Yes, a number did come in after this. It is 1140.
Okay. Lorenzo Monaco is the owner applicant, and same representative, but Lorenzo is not here.
Right. We do have a caller on here. Lorenzo, are you the caller on go-to here? Does not look like it. Yeah, yes. So, as I say, we could open this, but we don't have the abutter notifications. And I emailed him today, remind him to bring them tonight. So we weren't notified that he wasn't going to be here this evening, so.
So we can't open it then? Nope.
It
Continuation?
needs to be postponed
Postponed.
to the next meeting.
All right.
And we'll follow up with him to remind him.
So we're now at 6:50.
Yep.
Not yet.
7 minutes.
7 minutes. Okay.
Number 18?
Or 15. Did we go through Birch Street?
There's someone is actually coming in for that one, so we'll just wait on that. Number 18, to Glenridge Road. This was another situation where there had been some unpermitted work at that property. They were new property owners. They weren't aware of the wetland restrictions on their property. There was a lot of areas that, well, in the past, there's a perennial stream here, so they've got riverfront, they've got bordering vegetated wetlands, they've got buffer zone. It looks like historically, some long time ago, probably when the house was built, there was probably some, landscaped areas closer to the stream, which had well grown back, probably had then been left alone for a long time because it was fairly wet, being a bordering vegetated wetland over there. So they had hired a landscaper to do some vegetation removal in that area. I went out there kind of when they were in the middle of that, talked to them about that, made them aware of it, and had sent them some correspondence. I was gonna work with them to see if like a restoration plan needed to be done, etc. I hadn't heard from them after a few correspondences, so I brought it up at the last meeting. We sent in a letter requesting that they come in. They did contact me and did provide written correspondence with me. That they are aware of the restrictions, and with that, I kind of outlined what I saw as the developed yard area, and they agreed to that, and that they won't do any further work. So at this point, I don't see it necessary. I did go out there today, again, took a look. I had gone out there before. They're actually also out of town, coming into town today, so they weren't able to come to this meeting. But I think that since I have that correspondence with them and there's nothing else happening out there, all that vegetation's growing right back in, I think that we can close this. And I'd send them correspondence just outlining what we've talked about together and then put that in their file. So I think that would be appropriate at this time.
Okay. Eric?
I have no problems with that. In instances like this, do we generally set a reminder as a follow-up drive-by or something like that, just because you can obviously see it
Yeah.
from the road?
Yeah, you can see it from the
for
road.
maybe, either a year or 2 years from now, just to check.
Okay.
To make, if there had been correspondence and willingness to communicate, I would be less likely to put that. But
Okay.
given they haven't been communicating with you, if we could put some sort of follow-up plan in place just to
Okay.
trust but verify, that would make me feel better.
Yes.
David, any comments?
I think Eric is spot on.
All right. Roy?
Nope.
No, I don't have anything.
Good.
All right, Becky, so we've got that done. Agents report, you want to start on that?
Yep. Just to let you know, I did put out a request for quotes for the survey for the Long Pond property. I did get one back this week, and I was waiting to the end of the week just to see if the other, we put out for 3 to see if those come in. So we will be looking at those, and that's to address the property boundary kind of concern we have in the northern portion of that, but then to do a full, complete survey for us for our records, because it was never done for that property. So that's just an update on that. I had a site visit out at 6 Picker Road. They're wrapping up most of their construction out there. They have a temporary occupancy permit at this time to start operating out there. So I had a site visit with the applicant property owner. Glenn was there for a period of the time, and then we also had the site foreman out there, and then we've had VHB, who's doing our independent monitoring of the project out there. They're doing a weekly monitoring at this point in time out there as well. So we did walk the whole property. Overall, things look really good out there. There was a few things that needed to be looked into, worked out. If you remember, all the basins had plantings on the side slopes. They were planted in the wrong area, so they were supposed to be fixing those tomorrow, or we'll be fixing those tomorrow. There's a back area, a question they need to look into what the ground surface was supposed to be back there, and a couple other things. So overall, wetland restoration looks great, Glenn. Things look good out there, and they'll be looking towards, I do think it would be, in this situation, advisable to have them come in for a partial certificate of compliance, because everything will be done except the monitoring of the wetland restoration and the upland restoration areas. I think that, that way we can review all the as-built and make sure everything related to stormwater, et cetera, is good. So I kind of left it with them giving us some information moving forward, and that we'd look at the potential for that partial, leaving it so it was just the monitoring to come back for, to close that out afterwards too. Just so we can say, yes, you've followed our plans, and it's not an issue in 2 years down the road when we're wrapping up the monitoring. I just think it's advisable, so.
Okay.
All right.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
David?
Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did ask, VHB is going to stay on for a little bit longer and do monitoring. They'll go to a bi-weekly, just because they did have some areas hydro-seeded recently, and I want to have them keep an eye on an area in the back, and then report to us about the plantings being moved out there. So that'll continue on. We'll reevaluate in about a month and probably be able to stop the site monitoring that we've been having go on, which I have to say has been very helpful, because otherwise, it's just a very big project. It's not something that is easy to monitor.
Yeah.
So, all right.
All right. We are now at 6:50. PM, 150 Charlton Road. Continued notice of intent, development of a light industrial building and supporting infrastructure. DEP file number 300-1115. Glenn, how you doing?
Good evening,
Yep.
sir.
Yep.
Ed and everyone, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, so just a quick summary, had the last meeting, we asked for the fence to be added to the plan, we did receive that plan, did make that available, I could put the sheet up if you wanna look at it. They did add the fence at the limit of work, it's a 6-foot stockade style fence. It'll, in the front portion off of Route 20, it'll start after the setback, that way there's no visibility issues, coming in and out of Route 20 right there, which I think is acceptable. And then the back portion at the back property line setback, it'll go down to a 4-foot fence back there. But it's really, that's kind of at the back part and curves, so I see no concerns with that. So at this time, I think that I did send the last plan set over to peer review, just to have another set of eyes on it. They didn't have any concerns with the plans, it was just the fence there. Just as a reminder, they were, in their last correspondence, they did have a few things that they recommended that could be added as conditions, that didn't need to be fully figured out before we issued approval. So I agree with that. I did give you a draft set of conditions for you to look at. And then I just had one revision to that draft that I had given you. I did note that for number 69, I just had it said this condition shall survive, blah, 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 and be a perpetual one. I had a suggestion from DEP just to add in as another perpetual condition, just that if the project site, the use changes and becomes a land use, the high pollutant load, there would be an upgrade to the stormwater system to be in full compliance with stormwater number 5. So that's the only condition that I would recommend just adding into what I initially gave you. So.
All right. Glenn, anything?
Yes, thank you. Just again on the fence, if we read that very brief here, bullet point number 2 under 5 on your regular, it does say that SEC requests fence as industrial use and final use unknown to not impact wildlife habitat. So that might mean that if it was less of a use or less of an impact, so again, I believe Rebecca was getting at, and the board, if you don't know what's going in there, let's go to the fence because it could be something that impacts. But if it turns out to be less innocuous, whatever use is, then that would kind of leave us open that we're asking that it be put in the order that it could be revisited if the use was innocuous, if the buyer did come forward and perchance it was something that obviously wasn't as harmful as what was being thought because you did not know who was coming in, again, less or innocuous. Can we revisit that point of the fence? Can there be something put in the order of conditions that allows us to revisit that issue?
If there was something less innocuous or if there was a change,
Yes,
you could come back.
yes.
But I don't see any reason to put it in the order of conditions and create a debate over the word innocuous.
So in the end, if it was less, then there could be an amendment to the order, is what
Absolutely.
you're saying.
Yep.
All right, well,
Yeah, I think that would always be allowed.
That's always the case.
Yeah.
right, but we still had to say it only because of the term in here that because we don't know what's going to happen, we're forcing you into the fence. We just want to be clear that then that must mean there's some play in there somewhere. So as long as we understood that, sure, of course you can always come back for an amendment.
Yeah.
If it's less innocuous. But if we didn't say it, well, then I would be amiss in not saying it.
Sure.
All right, anything down this end?
No. Thank you for addressing all of our concerns. Appreciate it.
No, our
David?
pleasure.
No, I have no comment.
Okay. Do I have, check with the audience?
Is there anyone on GoToMeeting who would like to comment on the public hearing for 150 Charlton Road?
Do you need to unmute people?
They've muted themselves.
Oh, okay.
Yep, yep, yeah, I don't have everybody muted on here.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
A motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? David?
No.
Roy? No? Hearing none? All in favor?
Eric
Close it.
Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin?
David Monaco, in favor.
All right.
We thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve DEP file number 300-1115 at 150 Charlton Road, and issue a OOC pursuant to the Wetlands Protection Act and the Sturbridge Wetland Bylaw with the noted and attached draft conditions as laid out by our agent.
I second that.
Any discussion, David?
None.
Roy? You're all set? Okay. I'm all set. All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
David Monaco, in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I believe I might be next.
You are.
I know. Thank you. Thank you, guys. See you later.
Should have taken a little more time.
I was trying to drag it out. It's for the first time. I mean, I do have more words.
We know you do, Glenn.
There it is.
Glenn, you're never without words.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
Becky, what else? Have you finished your,
We're gonna have a big gap coming up soon
I
here.
know.
Is there any, thing on the back side?
We went through all those. I mean, I have a few more things in like agent report. One being 241 Main Street. So that had been a site we had been made aware of. Some work had occurred out there. It's 241 and 245. There had been a towing facility had moved in. They put in a fence,
Wow.
etc. I had been corresponding with the tenant and the property owner for some time about that, and had been made aware that the fence was going to be coming down at some point, and was kind of waiting on that. The property owner did reach out to me, I don't know, last week or the week before?
Thursday, last week.
Yeah, last week. The tenant had moved out, and they did take the fence down. So I did go out there with the property owner, looked at the property. I had no concerns with it. It's vacant right now. Fence came down. There was nothing kind of piled in the back or any, piles from, fence removal or anything like that. I did talk to the property owner. He does have an intent to move, it's got a medical trucking business to move kind of back there, and he's interested in having the property repaved, which I think will be a benefit there. So I did recommend him contact an engineer. An engineering firm did reach out to me right after that, and we discussed what would be entailed for doing that project out there. So I should know more about that in the future moving forward. So I think everything's been satisfied at that property, and we can close that out for this time.
okay, great. Any comments, questions?
Nope.
David?
None.
All righty.
On my watch.
What? Looks like 7 on
my
your,
watch.
Glenn, does it look like 7 on your watch?
On my, unfortunately, 6:58.
Yeah, that's what it looks like on mine too.
What's just out of curiosity, every time I drive by Holland Road, I think of like, are we done there? Are they completely closed out? Are there no enforcement items still out there? And since you're sitting right there and we're talking about
Yeah.
open items,
Not gonna
Yeah.
allow the answer to go beyond 7 o'clock.
Sure enough.
Well, we're gonna have time coming up.
Still 6:58, so I imagine I got a minute and a half. So if we can,
Talk
it's
fast.
6:59 right now. So,
Can I start though, real quick?
I'm sorry,
Okay,
go on.
I would just say that, right, we still have the open enforcement order out there,
Yeah.
and it's something that we've recently talked about, looking towards closing that out. So they've addressed the replanting that was required out there, and they've met the monitoring requirements that were there too. Everything's survived and is fine. The only other thing was that we were having the erosion issues, and they've addressed all of their ability to with the erosion issues on the site. What the issue is where DOT and that gate is at the end, is that it keeps overflowing there because that catch basin gets filled up. So Glenn's been on top of that with them, and DOT is working on submitting a notice of intent to repair that drainage issue we have over there. We raised that issue with them. It's been taking a while. They don't have any formal easements over there, so I know that they've been working through like an easement process with the property owners to get that figured out, but we should be getting a notice of intent in the near future on that. So I think that they've adequately done what they can to address that, and I think helped force DOT's hand to address that other issue we have out there too.
Did force them.
It's 7 o'clock,
Thank you.
7:01 actually.
All right.
All right. We are at 698 Main Street, continued ANRAD, and DEP file number 300-1133, National Grid, Interstate Towing, Glenn Krabowski. Becky, you want to start it off?
Okay. If you want. So right, this is a continuation. We had a peer review done by Art Allen out there. I met him out there. Glenn was out there. One of the areas that was of question, and I do have the plan electronic, so I'll just pull it up real quick. And I'm sorry, Dave, I wasn't sharing my screen earlier for you. I'm realizing now. So you weren't seeing what we were talking about, but we will do that now. So that is this one. All right, so I'm going to zoom in here. So, and we did, so this is the revised plan that came in based off of the site visit that we had out there with Art. And the area where the changes are here, and I'll let Glenn go over that. I did submit this plan to Art. He did reply and give us a memo recently on that. He's content with the revisions that are on the plan. And at this point, we can move forward with the issuance of the ORAD on this plan. So Glenn, do you want to go over quickly
Be very brief. I know the commission likes that out of me. So, yes, there was an isolated upland added in. It almost looks like a rectangle. It's right here. There's an old piece of a foundation. There was a flow path. We did find the inflow. It's a stone culvert that flows underneath this upland strip between, there it is, 11. From that point, you can find the stones. The water's going in. It goes underground. Then it popped up where Art Allen had seen it, probably from those heavy rains of last year, July, 13, 15 inches. And we delineated a flow path out of there. Connects it, bless you, to the wetland over here. Again, with that small piece of upland in between. That's what we had looked at with Art. And so now this does become bank because it is an underground conduit. It's a stone culvert. It was actually sidewalls and a cap wall, but it had been filled in over the years, and that's why it was hard to find that inflow point. But enough organic had flowed down through it, and it became some voids where you could now find that beginning of the culvert. So there was most likely an old farmer's crossing through here at the time, and then it pops out as a wetland going in this direction, just off-site, and then this is the wetland coming down to it.
Yeah.
There's no proposed work up here, but that isn't in front of you. The work would be up in the front for the Procon. You'll be seeing that from CMG.
Yeah, and there was that question because on topo maps, and we had talked about it before, there was a stream on the adjacent property that was shown there, and at some point it had been redirected on this property, so that was that stream. That was the other question that was kind of out there too, so that's been satisfied.
It has been satisfied. Many years ago, there was a house back there. They redirected the stream. They brought it laterally across the property, the adjacent Chacharoni properties, and then it dumps it into here. There's no evidence of any stream. It's filled. It's been filled for years, probably during the time of the house being built, and the house has since gone. We noted that there was no stream there back when we presented a Galileo edition to the commission back maybe 12, 13 years ago, that there was no stream. In fact, there was a rare species issue because there's a triangle float of mussel in the river. So they were taking any tributary along that main stem of the Quinnebog, and if a tributary came down, this is rare species program, they were saying, okay, this is rare species habitat, and at that time we proved that stream is not there. And we walked to where there's an inflow underneath 20, but there's nothing upgrading at all. No defined channel. It had been filled, leveled. It was part of the front yard of this structure, whichever was there before, and a complete diversion of the water 50, 60 years ago at least. So what Art and I talked about was that some old USGS features going back to 1900s and that, they don't take them off the map, so the feature is still showing, it's not there. And it does not show the lateral feature any longer either. So that's just some feature that's been gone, and that's all I'll say about it.
So do we have peer review comments? No?
Yes, yep, we did get those, because we got this last week, so Art was able to look at it. He did send us a memo. He is satisfied with the plan revisions, so we can move forward with
So you
approval.
reckon,
Yep, so I'd recommend, approval, issuance of an ORAD based off of this revised plan.
right?
All right,
Any comments?
I'm
David,
good.
any comments? Hearing none, motion to close the public hearing?
Should we go to the public, just to make sure?
Yep.
Is there anyone on go-to who would like to comment for the ANRAD for 698 Main Street? No comment.
Seeing no comments?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion, we close the public hearing.
I second that.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, David? All in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Motion in favor?
Ned Goodwin in favor.
With regards to DEP file number 300-1133 at 698 Main Street, I'd like to make a motion to issue an ORAD with all the appropriate conditions or notes laid out by the agent.
I second that.
Discussion? Any comments? Seeing none?
Eric
All in favor?
Gaspar in favor.
Rod Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin
David
in favor.
Barnacle in favor.
Dave Barnacle in favor.
Thank you again. I have extra hard copies of that plan. Did you need any more hard copies?
I don't think so, but
Okay,
thank
good.
you, though.
Thank you again,
Yeah.
appreciate it, all right.
And just go back to the Holland Road site, but I think that maybe the next step would be maybe to submit a letter stating that you think you've satisfied the enforcement order if you feel that you're at that point, so we can kind of move forward with addressing that.
Right, and what we've taken on, James Robita of DOT has guaranteed they're working on the plan to do drop inlet catch basins, which I recommended to them and then CC'd both Rare Species Program and the CONSCOM. So the pressure was on that we were going to do something against DOT if they didn't fix their problem, which was affecting us. Since then, we also stabilized the erosion gully that was in our property, seeded it, it's growing grass, and water had flown over it when the leaves were on that catch basin in the spring, and there was no more erosion. So that it hasn't reformed, it's a sheet flow across the yard when the leaves were on the two catch basin grates. And we have now taken on with the guy that's managing there to clean that grate out this fall, and until that DOT fixes their problem, we will maintain the grates. We did not maintain them last year to make the case that without maintaining them, we have a problem. Now that they've agreed to do the catch basins, they sent us an email, I sent it to Rebecca, they are doing their NOI and they're doing easements, we granted them easements through our property, so we will finally fix that problem of 20 water running through us. But until then, we'll keep the grates open.
Thank you for taking that on, Glenn.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Hang
got
on a
another
second.
minute.
I have a question for Glenn.
Just kidding.
Glenn, before you go,
Yes?
Dave has something for you.
Steve?
This has nothing to do with the meeting that we just closed the public hearing on.
No.
Glenn, do you
No, I
have
can't
any
go back to that.
paperwork?
No, you said it has nothing to do with it.
Oh, okay, all right.
What is it?
Do you have any paperwork, Glenn, that covers the history that you just gave us relative to the flow from the Galileo property?
From whose property?
Galileo.
Oh, that is back to the other thing. Do we have any history? Do we know when that happened? I don't think that, we don't know. I could say one thing. The closest thing we could come to that would be to look at the date of the original house that was on that property to see when it was built, because that's probably when the whole thing was diverted. And the town might have a date on that structure, because it's been torn down for 50, 60 years, a long time, and there's no evidence. I mean, it's all grown in with sizable trees that are up to 50 years old, so the only way to even look back into that might be the age of the house,
Yeah.
because they probably graded everything at that time. But that's quite a long time ago.
Yeah, we closed that public hearing.
I know you did.
I don't want it open.
I'm all set. You're the boss.
Good, yep, okay.
I
I'm
will,
not trying to reopen
I'll
it.
I'll
Thank
look
you,
at the
Glenn.
age, though, of the house. Thank you, and send it
Yep.
to Rebecca. Thank you.
We are now at 71016 Mount Dan Road. Continued NOI, raise and rebuild of a single-family lakefront home. DEP file number 300-1135.
So, they weren't able to provide revised materials, for this meeting, so they did ask for a continuation to the October 6th meeting.
All right, anybody have a problem with that?
Nope.
David, you all set with that?
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
David Barnacle in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Excuse me.
We got time for you.
That's what we're hoping for.
I knew we would. I knew we would.
Scott, you showed up at the exact right time.
Once in my life, right?
I scanned your plan there, but I failed to move it and save it. So let me see if I can find it. What day was that? Was that
Sorry.
yesterday?
I believe so, yes. I brought 2 copies with me if you,
Yeah, we can put those. It's nice to put them up on the
Thursday? It might have been
screen.
Tuesday.
Oh, that's not.
I had to go get them copied and then dropped off, so it's whenever.
Oh,
It might have been.
even if you can pull up the
One,
old
two.
plan, we can talk about that.
There she is. All right. I can go navigate and get the other one too if you like.
Yeah, go
This-
ahead.
this'll be
Get the
fine.
new one.
This is fine. All right.
I
Yeah,
got copies of them right here too, if you'd like
Yeah,
them.
but no, maybe
Yeah. So
Clear.
just to start. So we're talking
have it
about.
on our computers at home, right?
No, I just got this,
Yesterday.
so I didn't
Oh,
send it
okay.
to you, but you've seen this, so, so this is 8 Birch Street, DEP file number 300-1055. We did ask them to come in, I had, this is a project site that's been permitted, I did go out there, to do a routine inspection and just had some questions about some of the work that occurred out there. I did send them correspondence and immediately got a response, from the property owner and his representative that's here with him, clarifying some of what my questions were. I was questioning the trailers, which I'll let them go into the detail of it, but they did clarify when I was out there, they both were very similar, where they were different for their, sizes based off their previous sizes that were out there. So I had a question about that, and there was some additional landscape work that had occurred out there and a fence. So I did provide you the memo from Scott Morrison here. And this plan, he did have his surveyor go out to pick this up to show the visual of what the work that occurred out there at this point. So I guess I'll let you take over.
Can't you bring the pictures up and Scott go through the list of points on his, at the same time? You sent us pictures of.
Oh, that I took out there?
Yeah,
I can do that too if you want.
yeah, it may be easier to explain where,
With the pictures?
or even just, so,
Oh, go ahead, Scott,
so these are the 2 trailers that were replaced.
Hold on, I just gotta make sure I'm sharing this for Dave here. Let me go back now. All right.
So these are the 2 trailers that were replaced. If you look, this one actually
gonna
was,
zoom in a little bit more.
they're 47-foot trailers. This was actually 58. So if you look here, that's where the old trailer was extended closer to the lake. So what they did was they lined it up in the front so that it's 47 feet, so it's 11 feet shy of this back area here. And then this trailer is slightly larger and then pushed forward, so the back of the trailer remains exactly the same. If you recall, I don't know if you even recall this, it was, I think, well over a year ago now. The Conservation Commission asked for stone trenches along the drip edges of these 2 trailers. So that was installed. Once that was installed, there were all these sidewalks and there was like a patio and all these sidewalks. Those all got disturbed from when that stone was being put in. So we installed these sidewalks, paver patios, and then added pea stone in these 2 areas. And then this grass and then this walkway going through there. Walkways are pervious pavers, the most pervious material, and obviously the pea stone also allows some infiltration. Also installed the plantings down through here. I think there's some winterberry, high bush blueberry, couple hydrangeas planted there. So that's, and then the only other thing was there's a privacy fence that went in here that wasn't on the original approved plan. It's raised up above the ground so that any small wildlife can get through. I don't think it really acts as a barrier to any larger wildlife simply because you've got an existing trailer here and one here. So it's really, I think anything that would kind of move through here would either go down along the lake shore or can pass through up through here. So it's just a couple minor modifications. I'd be happy to answer questions if the commission has any at this point.
Becky, do you have any questions?
No, I guess I would just say there is approval for, let me go. Okay. There's one more,
Yeah, so
trailer that still, needs to go in. There's permission for a trailer to go in here. And there will be like some landscaping, patios, things like that he's talked about doing around that area. And then just in addition to up in this area, other minor things, but they want to fence in a couple little areas for their dogs off the trailers. That we should, any of those type of site improvements should get on a plan. So I had first got out there, had some more concerns. I think these are things that would have been approved. Minor landscaping, especially because they're pervious. Should have been on the plan, but right, those details weren't added. There were some things there. I mean, the biggest thing is really the sidewalk down to the lake. It would have been approved, but it is something that should have been on there. So I think that, having them on the plan and anything else you want to do would be advisable to have on there, and you just have to decide how you want that. And typically, it would have been like an amendment request, how you would have proceeded to kind of add those things on there, I guess. But we should have just had them on there in the first place, I guess.
Yeah. Anything?
The only thing I did just briefly drive by there just to kind of take a peek. The only question I have with pervious paver walkways is that over time, if they're not cared for, they become impervious. So is there an O&M plan for making sure that those that pervious paver patio and walkway performs as it should? And if so, I'm okay with everything else. I just want to make sure it doesn't end up turning into.
Right, and that is something that we today add as a condition in the order.
Right.
That would have been advisable, right?
I am pretty OCD about making sure everything is maintained and kept up to standards. So if anything ever eroded or it wasn't being held up, I would be the first one to be getting it fixed. You know what I mean? It's just the way I live.
Yeah. Well, if we could just make sure that gets noted, that would make me.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with the rest of it.
All right.
I'm good.
I have no problem with it. David?
I have no questions.
All right, great. Thank you for coming in.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
Just
for
one
sneaking us in.
question now about the 2 dog pens. Do you want Jade to draw those and come back, or are we okay just with 2 little dog pens
And
on
adding
the
it to
side
an
of the
asphalt.
trailer there?
Yeah, they'll go in right here, this pea stone area here.
Yep. They're
this pea
roughly
stone
like
here.
12 by 14. It's just to let the dogs out and have them, so they're not cooped
Put it
up.
on something and give it to Becky so we have it.
That's fine.
If we don't keep it up to date, then it becomes a problem. in 2
Not a
weeks.
problem.
Maybe to satisfy Eric's concerns, maybe we could just add a note to the plan with a quick detail on the maintenance requirements for the paver patio. And just have that on there, and then this will be the plan that we'd use to close out the project at the end.
And I use Brandon from Outdoor Living or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Boston Outdoor.
Yep.
So whatever he does need to maintain it, he'll maintain it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, you can just ask him what.
We'll ask him what he does to maintain it. We'll just add a note to
on
the
there.
plan.
Yeah, just a sentence
Yeah.
on there.
Thank you,
and
guys.
should we do anything with Lot 4? As far as showing you want,
Yes, I think if you want a patio out there,
I
I
should
don't,
just show it and have Jay draw it on the next plan with the thing.
perfect.
Just because I don't know where it's gonna enter, but we'll carry so many square feet of patio.
We can deal with that when you get to that point,
Okay.
and we can work on that then.
Okay, so
But
don't
we will
include
want
that.
that on an as-built, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Because what happened, I think, ultimately, the original plan, I think it was determined at the meeting to add the drip edge, so I think
Yes.
that kind of changed things, so we'll add those three things to the plan.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yep, no problem.
Take care. Have a
Good night, guys.
Thank you.
We didn't vote for anything.
I think it's informal, I think it's okay.
What?
You didn't have to
There's no
officially
You
vote.
didn't need an amendment. Don't
It
need
was
an
informal,
amendment.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good night, appreciate it.
So now we are at 7:10,
720.
7:20? Well, I am, okay,
720.
yep. 86 and 88 South Shore Drive. Continued NOI, raise and rebuild of a single-family home and associated site work, DEP file number 300-1127. And that's Steve and Marcy Reed and Lenny Jalbert. And it's continued, Becky, is there a?
Yes, we did receive a written continuation. They're still working on project revisions. They'd like to come back for our October 6th meeting.
All right. Okay, any problems with that?
Nope.
October 6th? Yeah, I have a problem with it.
Well, hopefully they took our notes. I don't have a problem with it if they took our notes.
I did speak to the property owner, which I think it was a beneficial conversation. So hopefully that.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Eric Gaspar in favor of the continuation.
Had a couple of things to.
We're all set.
Okay. I got a couple of things.
Go for it.
So, I told you before, we had little encroachment on the Plimpton property, the 7 Allen Road property we have by the property owner at 11 Allen Road. They were supposed to start the restoration plantings late last week, but with the rain, it's been pushed back to this week. So that should get satisfied soon. So just a quick update on that.
What? There was rain last week?
I know, huh? We do need to have an executive session at the next meeting, an executive session. Town council would like to do it before the meeting. Is everyone available to start prior to the meeting? Yeah?
Yep.
Dave?
5 or 5:30?
5.
5?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't take an hour, but it'll give that time. I think what we would do is instead of starting the public hearings at 6:10, we could start them a little sooner. So that way we don't have a gap of time there.
Yeah. So I'm ready at 6.
Just have to figure out how we're gonna have
What?
privacy for that for you guys.
Yeah, well, if we started at 5 and we'll have to tell Bruce, I wrote myself a note, we gotta tell them too. If we started at 5, there should be no one coming up here, so we can have this as a private session, and if anyone comes in, we'll just have to, keep an eye for the door. We can't have anyone come in, so.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. Right, because there was a report that came out, there was a revised report, and we'll go over all of that at that time.
We'll need a new link for Gate. Link. Separate link.
What?
I think we can still do it. We'll just stop recording. Oh, if anyone came in.
Because somebody could pop in inadvertently.
That's true. Yes, we'll do separate link. Yeah, and we'll give that to
So
KP Law.
Let Dave know that. He'll
Yeah.
have to go in and then he'll have to go out and go back in.
David? Yeah, I'll let him know.
Okay. And I'll give it to Alex too. So, all right. Couple other things. The Empire Buffet, 446 Main. We were contacted by an attorney. That property's gonna be transferring. Of course, they have an open order, like most people. So we pulled that file out, and there's a lot to that one. They had come in initially, it was like 2005 to redevelop that site, to put the restaurant there. And at the time, there's a lot of beaver activity back there, as we know. There was a right-of-way through their property where there used to be a driveway that went to the hotel in the back. That driveway is long gone, mostly underwater, but they had to put in beaver deceivers there to keep flow going because there's a stream there. They also were required to put a water quality swale in behind the restaurant to treat their stormwater because they're a commercial site. Well, it doesn't look like there was perpetual conditions to maintain both. It doesn't look like either has been done. And right. And
Touching my pearls, I can't believe it.
he found a picture of the water quality swale in the file where it was upland behind
Now
the
it's in
buffet
the
place.
wetland.
It's all wetland. So there's some concerns there, and we've dealt with in the past some beaver activity there. So I have a call with their attorney tomorrow morning to kind of go over that. They're going to need to hire someone to assist them to come up with a plan to address kind of both of those things, I think. And
Where's the beaver, where's the dam at the bridge?
well, there's multiple dams back there, and I actually got to talk to DPW because we had who was
Town
it?
had hired a consultant or something to go out there, and he said that now
Look at it.
beaver deceivers might not
Yeah,
be advisable or will work.
yeah. There's not enough depth behind the dams to put these deceivers in, so it's really an area that requires that beavers are managed and the dams are managed as well. And that really falls on the property owner where the dams are. I think there's 5 to 8 dams out there on different properties. So, each person kind of has to maintain their own. But I'm just not sure where the stormwater water quality swale is gone. They can't do that anymore, but they need to have something in place, and they should be doing something for the beaver. So we got to figure out how that's going to have to get handled. And I think they need to hire someone and come up with a plan to present to the board on how to fix that issue. So that's gonna be,
I buy vegetables there on a regular basis, or I did. No, that's not much more flooded than it was back in the day.
oh yeah,
There's
picture.
pictures. Yeah, it is.
I mean, back, away?
Behind
Yeah.
the building, there's a pavement area where there's a dumpster and some different
Right,
things.
yeah, I know.
Then there was supposed to be a stormwater large area where there's those, what are those, reeds and different things are now grown
Right.
up because it's all wet. The water is almost just about to the pavement now.
I
So,
don't, I'm gonna say what I said again. It's not much different than what
There's
it was. then.
pictures of what it was,
Yeah.
and it looked not
Yeah.
like that at all.
We got it to, at a point in time when pictures may have been taken, when we got it all straight, I think it lasted about a week.
probably, yeah. But I just want to make you aware that,
Yeah. No,
and
no,
I
you're
think
right.
they need to
Yeah,
hire someone and figure out just a plan for that area. Because, right, they need to close that out.
It's come up now
Yeah.
for the past couple months, and regardless of the closing on the property, they need to close out with this OC.
yeah,
either way.
okay, yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I was just making sure we got to 7:30.
Isn't there also a problem in that there's a propane tank that sits just off the parking lot area, close to the water that's rising?
Yeah, right, and it wasn't right next to the wetland, and now it is, so that should get looked at too.
What, is there any word on when they're gonna finish their underground tunnel?
Oh, yeah. So there was some contract issues out there from what we were told. Oh, Dave's laughing. Because the scope of the project changed and there was some back and forth between DOT and the contractor. Had heard that before the contractor walked off the site. And that they will be returning, but they're not returning until November.
Fiscal year change or something for the state.
Yep.
Which is in,
So that project's on hold.
I thought that was July 1.
I think it's
Well-
they said somebody said October now.
Yeah, I think for DOT, maybe it's different. I don't know.
When did it stop and start? Every time I go by, they're doing something.
Well, they were out
Well, they haven't
there.
been there in weeks.
6 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, DOT was out
Yeah.
there striping some
Striping
lines.
a sidewalk. And then one of the construction workers got hit by a vehicle.
Yeah,
It's a typical problem. Mass DOT has indicated that the project is already over budget. And so they're waiting those 3 months in order to be able to get a reassignment of budget, so they have money to be able to pay the contractor.
Well, you can make a lot of comments about, projects with the state. That one is the most amazing one I've ever seen. In all the time that they've been there, what they've gotten done. I don't understand it.
Well, there was quite a few issues that came up unexpected there that added a lot of delays to it too, so.
Probably cost.
Yeah, I did email, DOT and waiting to hear back from them just on, what's anticipated with the stream during this time, kind of where the culverts got left off, just to get a better idea about that and make sure that someone's paying attention to that out there too,
All right,
so.
we are, I
Una.
digressed.
You guys are up?
We are at 730, Lot 3/20 Fisk Hill Road and 30 Main Street, Berry Farm Road, continued NOI, construction of 71 lot manufactured housing community, DEP file number 300-1132. The owner is M. Sosick, and the applicant is Justin Glenridge. That's it. Who's up? Becky? You're up?
You want me to go?
Well, I'll just say, as a
Hi, Ron.
summary, right, so we do have Ron on here today. So at the last meeting, we talked about, the concept plan that you guys submitted. Ron had submitted a report, but it was, I didn't see it before the meeting here. So, we did provide that to you guys, the board, and then recently you guys submitted, a response to that. So I think that kind of going over, Ron's review and your response, I think maybe a good way to start, and then kind of get going over what you kind of submitted as well, so.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. Do you mind if we first pull up that plan sheet with the updated concept?
Yes.
Thanks. For the record, Brian Madden from LEC. Good to see everyone. So yeah, we got Oxbow's peer review report and had submitted some updated information. We submitted an updated open space plan, which I'll get into as well, based on the feedback we got at the last meeting. We're not ready to answer any of the questions related to the stormwater, as we talked about at the last meeting. We're going to submit that to the planning board, peer review, so we'll circle back on that front. But one of the things that we've been talking about and the applicant has been exploring is investigating measures to implement a reduced salt application on the roadways during winter storm events, but we will be back with additional information on that front. But perfect, thanks.
It was?
It just said stop.
Oh, sorry.
So based on some of the feedback we got in the peer review, we did provide a new updated table summary of what our disturbance within the 200-foot vernal pool buffers are, and we provided like a cumulative calculation for each area and then a total for impervious structures, driveways, roadways, rain gardens, or lawns. So conceivably, those are the areas that are going to no longer function for vernal pool habitat buffer post-construction. And so cumulatively across the site, and including in comparison to the proposed open space, cumulatively we're altering 5.4% of that total area, which we feel is a very de minimis impact on the overall landscape within the buffer. There's been some conversation and feedback about the crossing structure. I think the peer review report mentioned possibly exploring a bridge option.
we feel what we're proposing right here is adequate and will be a conduit for wildlife migration, specifically targeting our vernal pool species, largely the spotted salamanders that have been observed breeding in both the A series and the E series vernal pool habitat. One of the things that I followed up with Ron on some clarification question, and for the fact that we had removed these side retaining walls to help facilitate wildlife movement, there was a recommendation to, in these locations at the very ends, include like a 5 to 10 foot long retaining wall, like a flared wing wall to help funnel wildlife towards the crossing structures. So we'd be happy to incorporate that based on the peer review's comments. If the commission's okay with that, we can incorporate that into the final design. But we feel, as proposed, this will adequately serve to funnel wildlife through. And I think in Becky's staff report or recommendations or some follow-up conversations that we've had, she was, I guess, you're looking for like an example of a similar design crossing structure that we've used in the past. And I have come up with a pretty good comp. I haven't electronically submitted it. I can certainly pass it around just for a quick discussion point and submit it via electronically to the record. But so this was.
Thank you.
And sorry, yeah, Ron's not going to be able to see this, but this was a crossing structure that the state Mass Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program had approved for a site in Easton that was mapped for both state-listed eastern box turtle and state-listed threatened marbled salamander. It was a very similar situation where there were vernal pools on either side of a roadway, and this is what the state natural heritage approved. Essentially, is a 4x4 foot crossing structure with graded openings that would be able to facilitate the salamander and box turtle movement through that area. So we are proposing 5x3. We feel that this was an adequate comp that the state approved for rare species. And again, we're not dealing with rare species here, that we're just dealing with common species or species that are not protected under the state Endangered Species Act. And there's a lot of literature out there that spotted salamanders will utilize these type of crossing structures. And again, just to reiterate, the crossing structure itself, the roadway comes up and touches the 200 foot on the west side, and then the 200 foot is this magenta line out in on the east side, and we're far removed from that. In our crossing structure, we can provide a definitive detail on what the cross section looks like, but we're going to have a number of catch basin grates to promote sunlight penetration and moisture into the bottom of the crossing structure. That we're looking to propose a four-sided box culvert and then backfill the bottom with natural substrate from the crossing structure crossing itself. To have at least 3 feet of clearance within the interior. So again, we feel that this is more than adequate given the situation and the setting and what we're trying to accomplish here, but would be happy to go through it and answer any questions that the commission may have. Additionally, we provided some information on the open space plan. Thanks.
Pull that up?
Yeah, that'd be great.
We'll close that one for now, because it seems.
Yeah, this one may take a little bit to load. So again, the blue area is what we're proposing to put in a restriction on our property extending onto Lot 4 here in the buffer zone area to the A-series vernal pools. That matches up with the area that Matt has been talking with the state for the land transfer. We've removed previously the open space on our property extended onto the rain gardens. Based on the commission's request, we took that off. And so the cumulative area is 24.2 acres of open space in the blue that we're proposing as part of this project. So I guess with that, I'll turn it over to questions unless you want to jump in with anything.
No, the only thing, I mean, I'd say going back to the stormwater, just to give a little bit of an update, is since the last meeting, I was able to actually finally get a hold of the head of the department at the UNH Stormwater Center, which is one of the leading universities in the country for rain gardens and low-impact development. And I took all the concerns and questions that Becky had given us from the last meeting, and he answered every single one. And he said, you go on the website, which we've started to look at, and I know Pete will use in a lot of his answers and responses, is there's decades of information and studies and data out there that proves that these rain gardens will function, and they are the best option up here for the stormwater and the protection of the habitat. Now, I know, Ed, you had specifically asked about how do they function in the winter. And on their website, they have a 4 or 5 page study where they actually proved out that the rain gardens worked better in the winter than traditional catch basins and retention ponds when it came to recharging the groundwater and cleaning the stormwater. So, you know, I'm very confident that we'll be able to take care of all those concerns.
What's the site?
If you just Google UNH Stormwater Center, you'll come to their main site, and then there's a link. I think it says publications or documents, and they'll have a couple of pages of information on there.
Good.
He had a lot of, the guy's name I think was Thomas, he had a lot of good information that he could provide.
Yep.
Anything else?
No, I think we'll just
Okay.
be happy to answer any questions.
Do you want to have Ron at this point? Yeah, Ron, I'm not sure, anything you want to add, just kind of based off of your last report, and, you know, you did get the response there, anything they might have said tonight?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ron Schultz from Oxbow Associates. I'd like to thank the applicants for, you know, doing the updates that they've completed already. In the latest materials that I submitted, I mentioned either additional crossing or some type of graded bridge that would increase the width of the crossing. I haven't seen, obviously, the plan that was submitted tonight. And it was, I would say that the graded bridge option is more of an alternatives analysis, just to ensure that everything is being explored to the fullest extent. I don't know construction costs off the top of my head, but I imagine that a graded bridge is quite more expensive than a 4-sided box culvert. But it would just be helpful to the commission, I think, to see the side-by-side cost comparison and at least show that, you know, it's not a feasible option, because the bridge itself, if it was implemented, would create a wider crossing area and probably allow for a lot more wildlife passing than the smaller box culvert option. Along with the box culvert option, I saw that you guys will be using a 4-sided. Is there any specific structural reason for that, or is a 3-sided box culvert an option just to reduce impacts to the existing subsurface and the already naturalized habitat that the wildlife will be crossing through?
Yeah, we did take a look at that, and I think from a constructability standpoint, it's preferred because by the time you dig the footings for a three-sided, it would be somewhat equivalent to the footprint that you'd be altering for the four-sided box culvert. But one of the things that we were looking at is maybe increasing the depth of the height of the crossing structure. So when we backfill with the native material, that we have, probably introducing 6 to 12 inches of material, and then we have like at least 3 to 3.5 feet of clearance. So probably looking at something like a 5x4 four-sided crossing.
This is a three-sided, right?
Yeah, this is, yeah.
That's a three-sided, yeah.
But just to expand on that, going back to the construction of a three-sided versus a four-sided, you probably will, or you will end up with more disturbance with a three-sided, again, because like Brian said, you have to dig your footings. But then with that too, we have our utilities that have to run under that roadway, which now have to go 4 to 5 feet below that. Where with a four-sided culvert, we can run our utilities, say a foot or so below the culvert and then set it on top. So there's a lot less disturbance by doing the four-sided versus the three-sided. And it also is more cost-effective to do it that way.
Yeah, well, that's what you're saying, but three-sided is more environmentally, for the critters, it's
Well, I think it'd be,
better configuration.
I think at the end of the day, we'd have to disturb that area anyways and replace the native material. So I see it as, very similar, post-construction. We're going to backfill with the native material. We'll stockpile the
But do you
topsoil.
backfill in the culvert?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then it's the question.
Anything else, Ron?
Yeah, as long as the bottom of the four-sided box culvert is naturalized as much as possible to the existing conditions, I think it should be okay. I just had a couple more comments. I noticed that the retaining walls that had been proposed in the previous plan were removed, and I believe that was at the direction of the commission. I do agree with the commission that curbing structure doesn't necessarily always prevent movement of wildlife as it's supposed to, especially if it's not maintained correctly. In this case, I think Oxbow actually approved of the barrier walls that were originally proposed just as a way to funnel wildlife towards the crossing structure. And I mentioned in a follow-up email to Brian, I think it was last week, that as perhaps some type of, if you guys don't want the entire retaining wall structure on the proposed plan, to add some type of extensions to the north and south side of both sides of the retaining wall that's on either side of the road. This is a way to prevent any small amphibians from walking directly up into the grass, into the neighboring yards, and then directing themselves onto the roadway to cross it, and either ending up in yards across the street or getting killed on the road. It just exposes them to a lot of dehydration and potential for predators if they're out there. We've had some experience with eastern box turtles for putting in a permanent fence to prevent them from trying to cross roadways. If you turn the fence and direct it back towards the direction it was going and extend it for some length, they may actually get disoriented in a way that they would continue in the direction that they were going if they're just following the wall. So if you can turn them around and direct them back towards the forest area, I think it would be helpful to preventing wildlife from walking up onto the roads or into the yards where they could potentially be hit by lawnmowers or exposed to more predators or conditions that would kill them.
Yeah, we'd be happy to add those 5 to 10 foot flared ends on the north and south sides of the wall. If the commission would
Okay.
like to see that.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be important to try to direct them as much as possible. And if there is information that supports that that's beneficial, then I think that would be useful.
Okay.
Anything else, Ron?
Just the last thing, I know that the stormwater is going through peer review, but I just want to remind the commission that, vernal pools are fragile ecosystems. So any stormwater that's directed into these vernal pools will create some type of change in the habitat, depending on the chemical composition of the water that's going into it. And the concentrations, as the vernal pool dries up, the concentrations of everything increases as the water decreases. So it is a fragile ecosystem, and those chemicals or salinity changes or pH changes will all have effect on the vernal pools themselves. So I'm curious to see the stormwater, and I will check out that website that Justin provided.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, we are exploring some reduced salt application process. I think maybe somewhat similar to what you see in certain highway settings that are in water supply areas, stuff like that. So we are investigating some of those measures.
Yeah, I know Pete has started to look at too. There was some concern where we have now maybe 4 or 5 of the smaller rain gardens that are directed towards the vernal pool where they may not go into a larger rain garden.
Yep.
He's looking into, the potential of changing that or other possible solutions, to help clean the water if there's, over the 1 year or 2 year storm that he has to plan for according to his regulations. So that's all in the works, and I have that hopefully for October.
Okay. Anything?
Just 2 questions. How old were the plants that you pulled this from? Just curious.
They were approved in 2017.
Okay, so relatively recently. And last meeting, we were talking about the open space, and there was some, leeway, if we will, around the amount of acreage. Did that get more refined in these latest updates of plans, and is it more kind of solid than it was the last time? And if so, what was the delta?
So the plan that Becky still has up there, what we did is obviously remove the rain garden section, like Brian said, so that reduced the blue area to just over 24 acres. And then we added in what Matt had as part of his MEPA filing. That's all, filed with the state. The red area is the approximate limit of acreage that he will donate to the state. So we just took this to show how the two will connect. That, I'll call it up and down line there, the straight line, that may shift depending on what Matt works out with the state.
This one right here?
Yes, all right. Right in here. That may shift, however, Matt works out with the state, but this connectivity here will stay in some form or fashion. And that, I think, is part of what was confusing at the last meeting because we didn't have this whole area shown.
So there's no chance it won't be contiguous.
It will be protected one way or the other, whether it be state-owned land.
Right?
As a connected system.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Matt has said he will make sure that connection stays in place.
Okay.
But, 310 CMR, which is 10-05, if you look at it and read it, you need specificity. Big time,
What was that again?
Is that the
Specificity. I don't know another word for it,
In regards to...
We can't deal with generalities.
Oh, okay. You just want to fix.
That's a generality. I can color the upper section and color the down section and
Well, everything that in blue is very specific. That,
I know
will
that.
not change.
I know, but the open space was something that was proposed, and it has to be specific. You know, you got me messing me up. I'm just saying, take a look at this.
Yeah, and I think,
It meets, you have to meet it in other areas too.
okay, I'll take a look at that. Appreciate it. But is the 24 acres, that is something that we can commit to?
Oh, yeah, because we're willing to commit to our portion, and I know Matt has already committed to what's shown on the Lot 4 portion.
Yeah.
The only thing that may change is that red area, and that comes down to what Matt works out with the state. But the blue is specific, and that is
Yep.
same as protected open space.
So all you can control is the blue.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we do know Matt is a
They can
man of his
control,
word.
they can control all of it.
We just have to,
Saying they can only control.
We can't control all of
we
it.
just have to twist Matt's
Yes, you
arm.
can.
We gotta
Of
twist
course you
Matt's
can.
arm enough.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much.
I'd like to ask a question about the box culvert again, please.
Go ahead, Dave.
The box culvert, if you don't have a natural, I'm sorry, if you leave it the way the box culvert is, then that's going to be difficult for the animals to be able to move, as Ron has already indicated, or that they don't want to move on an artificial surface as opposed to a soil surface or a natural soil surface. If you make the box culvert a 4-box culvert and then you fill it with materials in order to simulate what would normally happen, almost every single time there is any kind of water flow, not necessarily during season, but after season, that is going to help to erode all of that material. So there would have to be something put in the operation and maintenance plan to continuously monitor that box culvert and continue to fill it with natural materials, if that was your intent. Or is that completely misguided?
Nope, that would, very good question. That will be rolled into the O&M plan to maintain that cover substrate within the crossing structure itself, and then to also maintain, make sure the vegetation doesn't come up over the retaining walls. That would allow for some wildlife to cross over. We'll have a 1 to 2 foot clearance off of that so they can funnel towards the crossing structure. But that would certainly be included within the O&M plan.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that's something, just to elaborate on that a little bit more, is, you know, that's what you get with this project here, where my father and I are the management company instead of dealing with 30 or 40 individual homeowners. We will have this O&M manual in place. We will abide by it. We'll have professional contractors out there that'll make sure that if we have to fix the bottom of this culvert or clear weeds away from these walls, it will be done.
I just got a couple comments. So, I just want to say I agree with Ron about looking at the alternative analysis for the crossing structure and demonstrating that, because ideally the graded bridge would provide the moisture, sunlight, and the natural bottom that would, be more likely susceptible that these animals will use that. So I think that would be the preferred. So I think you should kind of demonstrate why that might not be possible. And then also why the 3-sided wouldn't be either, because, right, even you can recreate that. And right, someone would have to maintain it. I know you're saying you will, but over time we see that maintenance is an issue. And if, right, we lose that natural substrate in there, then they're not going to use it. So that can be a concern. So I'd like to see too, like if this is a 3-sided, if there's something recent where they've approved a 4-sided, and if there's any studies that help demonstrate, like most of those, like the C&M permits there, like there's some type of follow-up monitoring to see if the structures are working. Anything that can help support that would be useful, is what I would say. I think that's just the only other thing that I want to add that I hadn't added before. So
I did, going back to the bridge, Becky, on that, after we talked, I think Monday or Tuesday, I did get in contact with a company. And, I mean, what it comes down to really is the economic feasibility of it. It's to do, depending on the length of the bridge that we're talking with an open graded bridge for this area now, talking anywhere from $150,000 to $350,000. You know, so it adds a huge expense to this project, you know, and something that, in order to try to keep this as an affordable 55 and older housing project for the town that this town I know wants and needs, I can't see absorbing that expense when there are other alternatives out
Yeah, just include that with a narrative with your alternative analysis, why it's not possible, but help show that what you're proposing will work when there are other alternatives. You know, this is the one, you know, right, it's kind of like you're bringing them to a bottleneck. We want to make sure they get through there in order to not affect these populations. And I think that's extremely important with this project, so.
Yeah, and I realize we haven't submitted like a formal iteration of what our crossing structure is going to look like, but we can provide that detail, and it will have a number of crossing catch basin grates at top to promote the sunlight and the moisture getting in between. You know, I think for what we're trying to accomplish in terms of what wildlife we're targeting for movement, that what we're proposing is appropriate. But you know, we'll give you that detail and then, you know, provide the full alternatives analysis of why we feel it's most appropriate.
Great. And with that, continuation?
Yeah.
Great.
So the next meetings, we have October 6th, and then we have one 3 weeks after that.
I think
So,
it's gonna be the 3 weeks after.
Okay.
Unless you wanna see us again at the beginning.
We like seeing
October,
it.
I just don't think, right, if they're not gonna have anything to bring, then I think that.
No, I think the next steps is like what we talked at the last meeting, and I still feel good with that we will, Pete's working on all the definitive plans, changing all this, we'll work on the alternative analysis, get all the stormwater questions answered and peer reviewed, and hopefully be ready to bring that in for the second half, or for the second meeting in October.
Right, and just, right, that'll give 6 weeks, which to make sure we get it to the peer reviews, plenty time in advance of the meetings.
What's
that
the
we can
date of
make
that
sure-
meeting?
October 27th. That way they have plenty of time, we can get it back, comments, et cetera, too, so.
Yeah, I know Pete's goal is to try to have all this wrapped up by the end of have all the changes made by the end of this month, to start to get these into peer review.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Becky, I have
Thanks,
that
Ron.
other check for you.
Perfect, thank you.
And I didn't know.
Thanks, Ron.
Continuation.
Yeah, Eric
All in
Gaspar in favor of continuation.
Yep, Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor of continuation.
David Barkle in favor.
Perfect.
4 for 4.
Oh, the next couple are great.
I signed that, yep. Yep. Perfect, thank you.
All right,
Ten.
Becky, we're now at
Good night, guys.
35 Podunk Road, notice of intent, construction of a single-family home, 300-1134.
Okay, so we do have a written request for continuation. They weren't able to make this meeting or the site visit schedule that we had prior to this meeting. They're asking for a continuation to our October 6th meeting.
Great.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor.
David Barkle in favor.
All right, we are now on to 237 Podunk Road, notice of intent, construction of a single-family home, 300-1138. Same deal?
Same deal. They asked for a continuation to October 6th.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
David Barkle in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor.
Sorry, no, I just got one more thing, under agent report.
But we couldn't make the 8 o'clock.
I
That
know,
was promised
sorry.
last night, so I guess with that one more thing.
Cause I just love being here. Wait, so just gonna.
I mean,
that was
root
good.
canal. Jeez.
Well, I'll make it quick then. So we have a property in town, 110 Brookfield Road, recently transferred property ownership, went through ZBA a little while ago. With that, it went around to staff comment. It is a site that's within jurisdiction to wetlands. It was a site plan. They did have on the site plan, there were some alterations that were gonna be conducted on the site, that appear to be within jurisdiction, so my comment to, zoning board was just that they'd have to file for those alterations. Did speak to the applicant, who is now the property owner, which is, Josh Roy, that is the, cruise control towing. At that time, and he said they weren't doing any alteration. We talked about what project activities were. I went by there on Tuesday when I was out doing site visits, and I have some pictures I can show you. I have pre-existing pictures from that too, and the site plan that shows
Right.
areas of pavement. They are doing work that appears to be in jurisdiction that would be subject to review through you guys. I think that, my recommendation is that they need to be notified of that, and have them come in, have them stop work, be able to go out there and see what they're doing. Looks like they're expanding the parking lot in the back area. Some vegetation, it looks like, was taken out back there. Some cutting into the embankment in the back. We do also have town property back there. It's one of our conservation lands. And I did talk to him about that previously, and he said that it was staked out by the land surveyor at that time, so they did know where that property line was, when I did speak to him before. So not sure that any work occurred on our conservation land or not, but it does look like that hillside was kind of cut into, and either millings were put down or something to extend the parking lot back there. So it is a land use with a high pollutant load, that is going in there. We know that based off of review of the other towing facility. I do think it's jurisdictional and that they should have to file, and go through review. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
I think they should too.
Agreed.
No question. And
Okay.
and I took a ride by after Becky mentioned it, and it's changed since, in recent weeks.
Did you say 110 Brookfield?
Yep.
Swing by there this week.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll send him a letter making.
Unless you think they would give us a site visit in the next, then I won't have to run by there.
Well, I can draft a letter tomorrow and get that out. I believe I have his email, and I can email that immediately, and ask to be able to get out there and do a site visit.
Yeah.
If one or two people want to come with me,
Yeah.
probably would be useful.
Yeah,
Might be easier.
Okay,
I'm available.
okay. And the normal language of
Mhm.
to stop work,
Great.
etc. Okay, yeah, that's all. It was quick.
All right. All right.
I'd make a motion to
Old
adjourn.
business,
I'd like to second that motion.
All in favor?
old business,
There. Geez.
Oh, I did.
I guess we have a comment about old business. Do we?
Old
We didn't have.
business?
old business. I have two questions. One of them is more recent, but first one is, how have we ended with DOT and the drain that was emptying from Route 20 directly down into the Quinnabar?
That's what we talked about a little bit with Glenn earlier. We did have an enforcement order there. They are in the process of developing that notice of intent. They have made me aware of that. I think part of the reason it's taking so long is they don't have easements there. But as that train gets clogged, it overflows onto Holland Road, which means it's not going into that pipe, which is actually beneficial until that's fixed. BSC Group did contact me a couple of times with questions about filing the notice of intent. I can ask them when we should be expecting that, but it was my understanding near future, but I don't know what that means in DOT terms sometimes.
Yeah,
I just hate to see it drag on to the point where it gets forgotten about.
Yeah,
I don't think Glenn's gonna let it go because it's impacting his stuff too.
yeah.
Yeah,
Plus it's yeah.
I can follow up with my contact there and hopefully get something from them.
That's a good question. What was the other one, David?
The other one was, I wondered if her ACE investigator had found anything out about the quorum rules.
Oh, yeah. I did, as a matter of fact. And if you go to 365-26 and read A under 365-4.1, actions by Conservation Commission, you'll see that it's specifically outlined that we need a majority vote for anything, period.
So three.
So a a majority period?
3, we need 3. You can't get anything with less than 3. Or a 5-member board. We'll read it.
So in other words, if we have quorum with 3 people in the room, something can pass at 3-0, but cannot pass at 2-1.
Right. Yep. And that's the way it
Thank you
works.
for that investigative work.
Sorry, there's a bill in the mail.
I have one more thing I forgot. Sorry, I'm gonna be quick.
Roy's going to be mad.
I'm
He has a
sorry.
motion
I just,
sitting there.
unless you want me to sit.
I want
make
you
it
to
sit
know
for
that I
3
tried to
weeks.
hurry her up at the last meeting. She has an audience, and I got calls. They said, hey, let her finish.
Ugh.
Go ahead.
Just quickly, so Eric and I had a site visit out at 508 International Properties in Sturbridge, 2 of them.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just going to say for agent report that I had a call into DEP and had not heard from them. But on Tuesday, I did get a call from DEP, so I was able to kind of go over our site visit. I kind of first started with what I thought about what we saw out there. I definitely think that the site has improved without the use out there, and they have stopped using the site. And that maybe the full wetland restoration that was initially planned out there might not be necessary, and maybe there's some alternatives, and that's kind of what I mentioned out on the site there too, to that, where they can make some improvements to the resource area that isn't, you know, a full-blown wetland restoration, as originally proposed. So, she, you know, kind of felt the same way. She hadn't been out there before, but had seen some photos. So she thought that that might not be a bad option, moving forward with this. They do have a new wetland consultant, out there, and I thought maybe, you know, a next step to keep this moving forward and get some improvements out there, maybe we'd be to have them, ask them to have their wetland person review it and come up with an alternative plan, if they didn't feel that full wetland restoration was necessary. Maybe there's some compacted areas that can be hand raked out, maybe they can seed it, maybe they can transplant. DEP did caution sometimes with bringing in outside soils, that you do bring invasives in, and we really didn't see any out there. So I would recommend that maybe we contact them and offer that as an option, to work towards addressing the enforcement order. I do think it looks a lot better than it did out there, when they were using it.
Yeah.
And some areas have grown back in, but there are some more deeper rutted areas that could benefit from some improvement, I think. So I think that would probably be advisable, kind of moving forward there.
Yep.
You okay?
I agreed with you with that over the phone. Anybody have any comments?
Nope.
You might want to loop Chidester in on that one.
I don't think we can.
Yeah, he's recused himself from that.
Oh, that's right, he's accused. So don't.
I will not. And with that, I've said everything I needed to say, so.
Roy, take us home.
Fantastic.
Okay, I'm gonna reiterate my motion to adjourn the meeting.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?